from Reverend Lee? No, I left several messages, but Errol already agreed that.
Errol Briggerman, okay. Okay. Good evening. I want to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners. Thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by East Wake High School student Allison Smith. Allison is the daughter of Misty and Philip Smith. Hold on just a minute, y'all. Of Wendell. She's a junior class president at her school and in previous years was the class vice president. She's achieved straight A's throughout her school career along with being awarded the Principal's Award the last 2 years in high school. Outside of school, she enjoys drawing and being around her friends and family and hopes to pursue a career in education in the future. We are so very proud of you and wanted to have you here tonight and tell you how proud we are of your school success and have you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Our invocation tonight, we're going to hear from Errol Briggerman. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
If I could.
Sure.
We're getting ready to do our fall food drive. It'll start after the harvest, so extra cheap already.
Okay.
So it'll be, we put the bags out on the 12th, and we'll pick them up on the 19th. And that's always been very successful.
Can you pull the microphone up to your mouth a little bit? 12th to the 19th. Leave the bags at the 12th. I think people are having a hard time hearing you. Okay.
Anyhow, we put them out on the 12th, and that's grown. Just FYI, about 5 years ago, we put out about 800 or 900 bags.
We'll put out probably 25 to 2,600 this. And folks in Wendell are just awesome about helping us with that. It's really a cool thing for us to do. So anyhow, let us pray. Lord, thank you for this gracious day you've given us. Thank you, Lord, for how you have blessed this community, how you have blessed so many people who live here, Lord. We are just so in awe of how you watch over our city because we take care of the things that are important to us and to you. We just ask you, Lord, as our commissioners and mayor this evening have decisions to make, Lord, that will honor you. We just ask, Lord, that as we move forward, as we move into the fall, as we come up to our Harvest Fest, it'll just be a successful event and will also honor you. For all these things we ask in your blessed name. Amen.
Is there any, does anyone have any adjustment to the agenda? Have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have 2 people signed up for public comment tonight. Come to the podium and state your name when I call it and address, please, for the record. You have 3 minutes. The light will start off green. When you've got about 30 seconds left, it'll turn yellow. When it's red, you're going to have to stop. The first one is Ann Stewart.
Hi, I'm Ann Stewart, Hollybrook Road, Wendell, and I'm back to talk about our school situation again. I'm still substitute teaching at the middle schools in Wendell and in Zebulon. What we've done to our middle school is a disgrace. We lost 22 teachers this year, almost as many last year. They just can't take it. I refuse to go for full classrooms anymore because there are 28 to 30 kids in every class. discipline is not there. It's not the school's fault. That goes back to the school board, that you cannot do much to discipline a child anymore. But it's a disgrace that we have filled our schools, our local school, to the point that people who want good educations either have to go to charter schools or private schools. They are checking out as quickly as they can, and the teachers are doing the same thing, because we got a lot of teachers from up north and that area. And they come down here, and it's just awful. Some of them go out in the hallway and cry because they just can't handle it. And I think our housing situation is what is attracting all this. Good people individually, collectively, no. There's a huge discipline problem. And for any of you who have small children, enroll your children now in a magnet school, not a magnet, but a charter school or a private school. You will not want them to go to middle school and maybe high school here. That's the situation that we have produced with our low-rent housing, subsidized housing, and they passed the UDO years ago to try to make Wendell grow the right way and prosper. And every time something comes up, people want to build a bunch of houses. You reduce the square footage, you do everything you can to attract more. And I don't have a beef about any particular person, race, or anything else. It's just collectively, it does not work. We are known as the low-rent capital in Wake County. I've been told that many times. And it's the commissioners who are allowing this to happen. It's not, the developers have a little help in the background getting all these government loans. And remember, there's an election coming too, and people know this. And it's going to work against some people whom I really like. But knowing what I think we need to protect our children. And everybody has children. Don't do this to them. Let Wendell grow the right way.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time's up. Louis Piner.
Well, hello. Been a long time. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and, well, Mark, I met you once, and Jim, how you doing? Good. I've got a topic that's probably going to catch you off guard, except for one person there. Dr. Lutz probably knows this. Years ago, when you got down here on Wendell Boulevard and where Selma Road comes in, 231, where Lucius Jones has got his place, and Western Auto is right down there, it used to be 45 miles an hour all the way to the river going to Zebulon. It got changed to 35. Well, there's been no more development on that road. There's no more houses on that road than there was. I'd like to see it put back to 45. And I've been told by former staff, and David maybe could back me up, but DOT in Durham said they approved it years ago for 45. So again, I don't think this will cost us a penny, but just like you to think about it. Because if you get on there, some people driving really, really slow. I live off that road, obviously. I'd like to see it back to 45. And that's all really I have to say. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Item 4, under recognitions, reports, and presentations, we'll take a look at our snapshot monthly reports.
If you have any questions, staff or I are available to answer them. Otherwise, they're available for your review at your leisure.
Yeah, there's no presentation regarding these. Just
Correct.
take a look. And see if you've made a note of any questions or anything, you can ask them. let's keep moving. We have, item number 5, public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight. Item 6, items for discussion. We'll move to item 6A, is the Parents Commission Fiscal Year 2020 Work Plan. We're going to hear from David Bergmark. Good evening, Mr. Bergmark.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. As stated, on this item, we're asking you to consider approval or modification of a proposed work plan for the Wendell Appearance Commission. At the May budget meeting, staff was tasked with putting together a work plan, working with the Appearance Committee to look at what do they want to try to achieve in the next fiscal year. There weren't specific budget items as part of our budget included for them as projects, although there was $300 allocated to the Appearance Commission. So we reviewed kind of what their mission statement was as part of their bylaws and prioritized what we thought were the items that they most wanted to begin working on this fiscal year, and put together the attachment that you have as part of your report. In the past, the Parents Commission did fundraising efforts. This new approach would really focus their time and their efforts on actually implementing the projects rather than spending as much time as they were on fundraising. Although I will say we'll still try to see what donations or grants may be available. So the 6 items that they chose were: 1, murals. Of course, the facade grant, which that item's already been included as part of the budget, $10,000 amount. Working with trying to develop public participation and partnerships in art, partnership opportunities for some of their beautification projects. We're continuing to work with the annual Art Walk, Spring Into the Art Walk event. A new item was what we're calling transforming mundane objects through art, and we gave you some example photos, and I'll bring those up on the screen as well, but I think that could be a really neat and potentially low-cost artistic option to give a little more life to the downtown. And then some temporary art, specifically looking at what are some things we can do just to kind of spruce up our vacant storefronts. It might be kind of something you could order that'd be like a vinyl inlay that you could put up there just to give it a little bit of a visual interest on those vacant storefronts. So on the screen now, you'll see just some examples of what we're talking about when we say transforming mundane objects. You take something that is either innocuous or might even be an eyesore, and you incorporate it into an artistic piece. So something that could be a low cost, again, and hopefully low time object, but give some visual interest. Someone just walks by a pipe and then suddenly thinks of what they could transform that into. We do currently have, our finance department is kind of tracks the funds that have been raised in the past. It's almost $11,500. Right now, that's just in our general fund balance. So moving forward, we would, again, have the work plan. We would look to fund that through any additional revenue that we may raise, or if we have things that come below cost during this year, we'd do an end-of-year budget amendment. Otherwise, if that wasn't in place or those funds weren't available through those means, then we would look to dip into that fund balance reserve that they've raised in the past. So this would work into, the budget amendment would work into 2 of our items, the facade grant and the Appearance Committee budget items. Right now, you have $10,000 budgeted for the facade grant and $300 just under the general Appearance Commission item. All the projects in this combined come to just over $25,000. So with the existing $10,000 that we have for the facade grant, there'd be a $5,000 grant through the United Arts Council for the mural specifically that we'd look to go after. And also we have, generally through the Spring of the Arts event, we are able to sell the art and raise at least $1,000, or at least that's we feel a conservative estimate. So what we see as kind of the net cost of this with these revenue sources to the FY 2020 budget would be $9,800. So we're here before you just to present what they're looking to try to work on this year, what those costs would be, and seek direction from the board.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bergmark? Any comments?
David, am I understanding correctly, there's still $11,000 in the general fund from past fundraisers?
Correct.
And what does that mean earmarked for or used for specifically?
So there is not a specific budget item that says, Appearance Commission projects. That's kind of why I'd say that we've just been tracking it to know how much they've raised. So technically that money could be used on anything that we want. It doesn't have to be used, but.
To clarify, it's not in the operating budget, it's just part of the general fund balance, the reserve of the town. And so it wasn't appropriated in the budget. During the budget hearing, the commission asked us to work with the Appearance Commission and develop the work plan, which is before you tonight, and then come back, and then if there's a interest in funding that, moving forward with this work plan, then we'll add the budget at the end of the year budget amendment. There is $11,000 in the reserve fund available that they raised that we account for that could go to this. However, if our revenues are high and our expenses are low over the course of the year, we may not need to touch that. Instead, perhaps the revenues can add, so that if there's a harder year in budgeting, then there's still an ability to have an Appearance Commission work plan. If we have a good year and we can cover it within our end-of-year budget amendment, no need to go into it yet.
Any other questions or comments?
Any motion to
Yeah.
approve this? Yeah, I'll make
to
a
approve.
motion to approve the 2020 work plan of the Wendell Appearance Commission.
So we have a motion to approve the proposed 2020 work plan for the Wendell Appearance Commission. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Item 6B is the Harvest Festival road closure and alcohol waiver request. And we're going to hear from Wendell Chamber of Commerce, President-elect Petey Edwards.
Hey, how are y'all? It is that time of the year. 92 of these harvest festivals we have under our belt. And we do appreciate everything that the town of Wendell has done, the commissioners, the mayor, everything y'all do for us. As you can see in the paperwork that you have, what we are asking for is temporary road closures for the Harvest Festival Parade and the special events and the alcohol permit. As you can see, we have changed the first thing I need to talk about is the parade. The parade has changed this year. It is not going to be going down Main Street. The parade will start on 4th Street at the bus stop area. It will go all the way down 4th till Cypress. It'll go from Cypress to 2nd, from 2nd to Pine, from Pine back up to 4th. By the time the parade hits back at 4th, we should be at the end of the parade, so we can go back and use, what we're trying to do is use 4th Street as to line up the floats and put all the walkers and things like that in the bus area. So that's where that road closures are coming from. Also, Main Street will be closed this year from Wendell Boulevard all the way down to 2nd Street. Once you get to 3rd Street, on the map that you have, the only thing that we did leave off that I noticed a while ago is turning to the left. We're going to close from the stoplight to the alleyway at Mad Sports, and that's not on there because we had a very long, extended, what do you call it, vendor list of people that were wanting to get in. Right now we're over 120 vendors coming in. So we are going to use from 4th Street all the way down Main Street for vendors. Once we get to the light, we're going to go left for vendors. We're going to go straight to Wells Fargo for vendors, and then of course we're going to turn right and go back down to Cypress, and then we're going to stop the vendors there. In years past, we've gone on down to Strickland Funeral Home, and we're not going to do that this year. We're trying to keep everything downtown, is what we're trying to utilize. That's the reason the parade is actually going around us instead of right through town. The top part of Main Street will be used for the car show. At different points in time of the day, they'll be able to, the police department and Wendell Public Works are going to help us opening up some of those streets, because if we don't have to have them closed all day, we're not going to close them all day. The car show stops earlier in the day, so it's where we can open up the top part of Main Street, but still be closed from 4th Street down. One thing that we're looking at is some of the vendors that are actually coming in might not want to be there all day, So those vendors that might not want to be there all day and might want to leave by 5 or 6 and not stay there in the night, we're actually going to try to put them on Main Street, so maybe we can open up the top, another section of Main Street for the evening. Let me make sure I got everything there. Is there any questions on those closures?
Does anyone have any questions about the Harvest Festival this year?
All right. The other thing that we need to talk about is getting, we're going to do the beer tent again this year, so we're needing a special use alcohol permit for that day. The beer tent will actually, this year is going to open up at 3:30. Last call will be at 9:30, and it will close at 10. The only reason we're opening it up at 3:30 this year is because in the Harvest Festival, we have put a cornhole tournament. And that cornhole tournament will start at 3 o'clock. And we're actually going to do it in the grass area, right there, near the beer tent. So the guys that are not throwing, they can either go to the beer tent, they can do whatever they want to, they can walk around, however you want to do it. You know, if you play cornhole, most you folks that play cornhole like a beer tent somewhere. So we're trying to see what we can do to help that out. Wake County, I've already contacted Wake County Sheriff's Department and requested an off-duty officer like we have in the years past to help up underneath that tent so we don't have to utilize any of the Wendell policemen or anybody else. The Wake County ABC Board requests us to use a Wake County Deputy Sheriff, so we will be doing that. So I'm here tonight as President-elect to ask for these street closures and to ask for the beer tent alcohol use permit. Any questions?
Any questions, comments? All looking forward to the Harvest Festival.
Oh, yes, always.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the temporary road closure and to allow alcohol in the permitted areas of the town square.
So moved.
Okay, so we have that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right, thank y'all. You're good.
All right. Mayor, I'm
Yes.
going to need a letter from the town,
Okay,
and I talked to Megan earlier today about it and stuff,
Okay.
signed by you, that I
Okay.
have to supply to the Wake County ABC Board, that y'all were letting us use the town square to put a beer tent in.
okay. She can get that done. Okay, she already has it.
She already has it, okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, item 6C is the ordinance to amend fiscal year 2020 budget to revise capital project schedules for the town hall design and downtown parking and event space. We're going to hear from Town Manager Mark Collins.
Thank you, Mayor. I was talking with the finance director earlier today, and you know, the expense side as the manager and adding an expense to the budget has me a little down, but the project side and accomplishing strategic goals for the community has me excited. So if you pick any two-sidedness to this topic with me, it's the both sides of my duty and responsibility. But yes, this is a formal request by ordinance to amend the current budget to add in 2 capital projects into the current fiscal year. One being the design for the town hall project, as directed following the work session from town hall. That amount of $500,000, and a downtown parking and event space project of $300,000. In your ordinance, you'll see that this basically affects one expense line in building and grounds to add that $800,000 to, and increasing the fund balance appropriation in a like amount. So the town hall project originally was designed to start the design part in next fiscal year's budget, 2021. As presented by the consultant from Cummings. There's about a 5 to 10% annual construction cost increase that comes with that. There's an immediacy of need for the workspace and facility, and so starting that earlier became an option that was discussed. So starting design earlier has the potential of saving costs to the taxpayer. It's moving the project up one fiscal year in our budget. Finance checked with the local government commission about a reimbursement resolution, which is possible, so our actual payments won't happen any sooner than we had originally scheduled. So the impact on our budget of when we'd be paying or borrowing money would be still later. No borrowing would be needed at this time. And the necessity of the project comes down to maintenance costs of this facility, the uncertainty about the ongoing structural condition of the building and the costs that would have to be put into it to maintain it, specifically the roof, as previously reported. Regulatory compliance with ADA and other issues is problematic. This building is not compliant, and we're entering a period of an ADA transition for the town where that is important to us, and we do have to start taking steps. An easy way to resolve that is to build an ADA compliant town hall rather than retrofitting this one. Also, the staff space concern. There's literally no space left for staff at this point. So what the approval of this part of the project, the budget amendment would mean is the ability to start construction management and design for the project, not construction. Again, at the end of 3rd Street, at the left of the park entrance. Looking at the downtown event space project, it was originally planned for FY 2022. I think if you check the budget presentation tape, you'll actually hear me say this project is subject to change depending on when private development happens. As y'all are aware, the special use permit was approved for the microbrewery in the adjoining old camp in Livery. The last thing we want as a town is to have a brand new building, get open, get busy, and then tear up the space next to it. So coordinating that private project with the public space next to it helps not only develop the public space, but coordinates it with the private sector investment. Again, this project was being funded in our plan through fund balance cost. Whether you put that $300,000 a couple years out or $300,000 now isn't changing our fund balance percentages in any given year significantly enough to make a large difference, but the project would have a good impact on our downtown in coordination with the other projects. Just for others who might be tuning in at this point, the Commission's already approved a lease of that space with the Perry family. We've worked out an easement arrangement with the Perrys in the city of Raleigh. Raleigh's installed new water and sewer lines in this space. Currently, the microbrewery is shooting for a schedule of opening in late May, early June 2020. Which is a pretty aggressive timeline, which means the funding does need to be in this budget year to get that done. All right. I'll put on the fiscal control hat for a minute and leave the project side. As a board, you need to know that your fund balance reserve policy is being maintained and what impact this budget amendment would have on your budget and that reserve. So the policy is to maintain a minimum of 40% operating of the operating budget as your fund balance reserve. When the budget was adopted, that represented approximately $6,030,000. which represented 88.5% of your operating budget. That's a very healthy reserve. All right, so if this amendment is approved, that unassigned fund balance for the budget would be 76.8. Still a very healthy percentage above your 40% policy. These expenses are planned in the 5-year window of the capital improvement plan. So there's no adding new projects to the 5-year plan, so your plan remains consistent as it was when you adopted it. There's no borrowing planned at this time, and as such, there's no additional debt service or costs added to our budget this year. What we would want to do in advance of expending the first dollar on the town hall project is come back with a reimbursement resolution, which allows any expenses incurred now to be charged to any borrowing within up to 3 years of the resolution, which means our borrowing can still be on time unless the commission and staff find that it's financially to our advantage to borrow sooner due to rates. Okay, and with that, I'd be happy to take any questions the board may have on this budget amendment.
Does anyone have any questions for the manager?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Mark, so with the amendment being approved, and I appreciate you bringing it forward in the way that you did, the amendment being approved, do you anticipate reshuffling of projects next year in order to keep the same? I know that you'd there was at least appeared to be a fair amount of thought put into when projects were timed. Do you see this throwing off any other projects moving forward? I mean, I know ultimately everything will shuffle, but in the coming year, are we creating an obstacle for the next budget year?
No. The big project part of it is in project management of the construction of Town Hall. So there's a time commitment of staff to move that a year earlier rather than late. So we'll have to reevaluate our workload in the coming year. In a following budget item, you'll see owner's project manager item. That's one of the solutions staff has for a larger, complex, time-consuming project like this, is to bring in that assistance so that staff isn't pulled away from our core services to handle a larger capital project. But as far as moving numbers in and out, the expenditure of the town hall fund shifts when there's a takedown, and so we can evaluate, do you borrow in that same year to make sure your percentage is higher, but that's more just a math equation than an ability to achieve. It's all in the budget, so we're not adding unanticipated work.
Nobody else has a question, I have a comment, and I think we all recall sitting in the gymnasium, and we were considering at that point whether you had to change a 40% policy in order to spend $50,000 in that first year's budget, because initially it would have dropped us below at one point. So I'm happy to see that the growth that we're seeing all over town is also growing. The margin that we have there, it's good to see that number up high. I appreciate you guys trying to capture both an opportunity with utilities that were going to be costly to us for the city of Raleigh, in the event-based parking, as well as trying to go ahead and capture interest rates and other things now versus waiting until they go back up. Appreciate the amount of thought y'all put into these numbers. It certainly makes following along a lot easier, and certainly nice to be in less austere times.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment ordinance to appropriate funds from the fund balance for Town Hall project and the downtown parking and event space project.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the budget amendment ordinance to appropriate funds from the fund balance for the town hall project and the downtown parking and event space project. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Right.
All right. Item 6D is downtown parking and event space capital improvement project, and we're going to hear from Assistant Planning Director Brian Coates. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. Before you this evening is a request for permission to release an RFP, request for proposal, for design build services related to the downtown parking and event space capital improvement project that Mark just explained before you. Its staff is requesting to release an RFP for design build services to design and construct that downtown parking and event space along East Campen Street, which includes also the Perry lease property that the town is leasing. The site is roughly, the Perry lease is about 0.3 acres. The other remaining parts are about 0.2. So we have close to about a half acre. The appropriated budget is $300,000. The RFP would be developed and released by early October, with bids coming in, design bids coming in after that. We are on a very time-oriented project to try to get it open by next spring, early summer. Staff would return to you for the award of bid and contract approval following this process. Once a design build firm is selected, we do anticipate having some public input by the end of the year, kind of getting those designs out and out to the public and staff. The timeline is proposed to coordinate with the microbrewery. Some project components that could be included, we're hoping to get pretty much all of them, but we'll see what happens throughout the process. Parking for vehicles, golf carts, and bikes. I think Friday night was a good example of that need for a mixture of parking. Landscaping for stormwater devices, lighting. There is really no lighting in that general area. Pedestrian improvements, so it's safe for people. And movement, food truck parking, electrical spots for food trucks, so they're not using their generators, which generate usually a lot of noise, and some public art that the Appearance Commission could be participating in. The final design components will be subject to public input, fiscal constraints, and timing, and we hope the Appearance Commission can be part of this project as well. And I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Coates?
I have
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
If we're requesting proposals, why are we basically advertising how much our budget is?
It's the reality with our adopting a capital budget and capital improvement plan. It's an up to amount, and then staff will truth the cost versus market expenses and make sure people aren't just putting in money to the budget. That's good. Sometimes with what we put in the budget, if we get good projects for that, I'm pleased.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? I'm very excited about this.
We are as well.
I really am. Okay. Motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Make a motion to request permission to release a RFP for the downtown parking and event space CIP.
All right, so we have a motion to release a RFP for design build services for the downtown parking and event space. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right, great.
Thank you.
All right, item 6E is a request for qualifications for owner's project manager for the town hall and related capital improvement projects, and we're going to hear from Public Works Director Brian Bray. Good evening, Mr. Bray.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Board of Commissioners. I'm here tonight to request permission to release a request for qualifications, an RFQ, for an owner's project manager, OPM, for the town hall and any related capital improvement projects. Staff is requesting to release an RFQ to select a consultant to provide the OPM services for the Town Hall capital project and any related capital improvements that may occur in coordination with the project. This OPM is going to provide overall project management services in concert and coordination with other project professionals, architects, engineers, contractors, and the town staff that is assigned to the project. The OPM will oversee and guide the interests of the town in the construction of, and they also provide budget control related to the new facility construction projects. The principal capital project that we're anticipating is the Town Hall project. Other related ones could include road and infrastructure needs that are related to accessing the site. Additionally, the OPM could provide oversight to additional capital needs occurring in coordination with the project, for example, parking lots and perhaps a new amenity at the town park. The owner's project manager is necessary for large-scale projects like the Town Hall. Manager Cullen spoke on it a little bit earlier. Due to the complexity, the scale, and the time commitment for the size project that we're talking about here. As such, the OPM is going to serve as the manager, facilitator, and communicator, working closely with the town's consultant on the project. Whoever the town manager assigns, likely he'll be working with them, the finance director, myself, and whoever else. The OPM will also coordinate project design meetings, keep us up to date. A scope of services has been attached for you all to look at as well. And the cost of the OPM, as mentioned earlier as well, it's included in the $500,000 for the design that has been asked for and approved, considered in the, on the agenda earlier. If approved, staff plans to release the RFQ by early October for review of submissions by the end of November, and then we'll bring it back to the commission in November, by the end of November. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Brian, do you know how much of that 500,000 will be dedicated to the OPM?
That I don't know. Offhand.
We'll hold that one close.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're not cheap.
Yeah.
We call them owners reps, but I think for a town our size, it'd be a great idea to have somebody making sure we're getting what we're paying for on the contract.
My past experience using them is you get your value either in value of cost reduction or alternatives or avoiding project delays.
I agree. I think it's a great call. I was just wondering how much your rough estimate was.
We have to put the total design cost out there, but we don't necessarily have to break it down if we get
Gotcha.
Yeah. Excuse me. Any other questions or comments?
I have one, just in my lack of knowledge here, is OPM, are they in any way tied to any particular building construction company, or is this a separate entity from?
They would be separate.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
These companies only represent the local governments. They do not represent any of the design professionals or contractors. They're an extension. They're like outsourcing our staff.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to grant permission or approve permission to release the RFQ for the owner's project manager for the town hall and related to capital improvement projects.
Okay, so we have a motion to grant permission to release an RFQ for our owner's project manager for the town hall and capital and related capital improvement projects. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
6F is our information technology recommendation for award of bid and request to negotiate a master service agreement. And we're going to hear from Police Chief Bill Carter. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Let's see what we got going on here. Yeah, it's fine.
Case in point.
Yeah, this was not planned, I assure you. Sure it was. It's the computer. All right, it's the computer.
Remote was working.
Yeah, we tried that.
Yeah, timing is. Well, I guess we'll move on without it. Timing is
All right,
prophetic,
go
eh?
ahead.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, I apologize for the technical issue there, but I think we can work through it without. I come before you tonight requesting permission to continue to negotiate for a contract or master services agreement for IT services. Back in May of this year, Manager Collins appeared before you all, and we were authorized to release a joint request for proposal along with the town of Roseville for IT services. We set out a number of goals that we wish for the selected vendor to accomplish, all driven around the most efficient use of technology, how to plan for the growth that we as a town and a governing body and administration have going forward, security, and overall maximization of return on the investments. We wasted no time after receiving approval putting that RFP out about 3 days later. A total of 9 vendors expressed interest to the point that they attended a mandatory walkthrough both here and in the town of Roseville, which occurred in June, and those individuals were allowed to walk through, look at the technology. They were given appendix information regarding what each town used, the systems that were used. They were then allowed to ask questions, and we collected all the questions, responded to them jointly, and then pushed the answers back to all vendors so they had a chance to all receive the same information. Ultimately, a total of 7 vendors submitted proposals by the deadline, which was in July, mid-July of this year. Copies of those proposals were distributed to the staff in the town of Roseville as well as staff here in the town of Wendell, and the process of initial review began. Finance Director Kay and myself conducted the initial reviews here, and then the Finance Director in Roseville also conducted a review. We then met and went through our independent reviews and derived a consensus ranking of the 7 vendors. The RFP required us to actually narrow it down to 3 and present those 3 to the town board, or town managers, excuse me. So, after that review and evaluation, there were 3 vendors that moved forward. Those 3 vendors were Carolina's IT, Internetwork Engineering, and VC3. Those vendors were notified that they had moved forward in the process and were asked to appear and make presentations in early August. All 3 of those vendors acknowledged that and made presentations, which were held in Roseville, and present for those were the managers of both Wendell and Roseville, the finance directors of both Wendell and Roseville, and the police chiefs for both Wendell and Roseville. We received those presentations, evaluated the content, looked at the overall written proposals that had been delivered to us, and also conducted reference checks and other due diligence efforts. After completing all those activities, it was and is the consensus recommendation of the participants in this committee that Carolina's IT be selected to provide the services to the town, as it was proposed to be the most suitable to the needs of the towns in terms of the initial criteria behind that RFP. And the initial criteria in the request for proposal were very straightforward: technical expertise and qualifications, service approach and methodology, project staffing and experience, and satisfaction of clients and end users. The proposal provides for 12-month pricing and falls within authorized funds of the current fiscal year budget. The solicitation and process were conducted in compliance with North Carolina General Statute 143, 129.8, which deals with IT technology. At this point, I'm representing staff here this evening, and we're requesting authorization to enter into final negotiations to establish a master services agreement or contract with Carolina's IT to provide managed services for the town of Wendell. If authorized to proceed, staff will continue to negotiate with the vendor to secure the best value while ensuring the needs of the town are met. Do you have any questions? Anything I can?
Does anybody have any questions for the chief? This has been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to authorize staff to negotiate a master service agreement with Carolina IT to provide managed services, IT services.
Okay, so we have a motion to authorize staff to negotiate a master service agreement for IT services with Carolina's IT. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you. Now we'll start back work.
All right, item number 7 is other business. The one tonight is update on board committee meeting attendance by town board members, and the one that we have tonight is Campo that I attended. At our Campo meeting this past week, we approved the transit asset management performance measures and targets for the state of good repair, received information on fiscal year 2020 to 2029 transportation improvement plan. We received an update on the federal rescission, and we received information on the fiscal year 2019 projected member dues for the fourth quarter, the fiscal year 2019 operating budget, the executive board September project updates that we always receive, and the public engagement updates. Now we'll move into our commissioners' reports, and we'll start at this end with Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anyone that was within 2 or 3 square miles is aware of the Friday night main event. That was certainly a very cool event. Good to see the public-private partnership there. Glad to have that here, another draw for another group of people to bring them into downtown Wendell. It was a really fun night, and obviously a lot of work, but I got some really cool pit. I never thought I'd stand in the middle of Main Street with a beer in my hand and the police chief standing to my right. So there was lots of things that I thought never would happen, including the budget earlier. That's probably the second. A couple of comments. One, speaking of the chief, I'm glad to see we're transitioning him out of his IT role, hopefully, and I look forward to getting the Wi-Fi password one day. Commissioner Boyette does not have the right one. To speak to Mr. Piner's point, I remember Dr. Lutz talking about that when we were at Wendell Falls years ago, and I know that at least one point the delay was the dump, and the dump not being open yet. That's clearly open, and I would certainly support Mr. Piner's desire to see that go up to 45. It is a long ride to Zebulon through that piece. And the third piece is I visited Washington, D.C. Recently, last week, and it's always a humbling and a very cool experience to see our nation's capital. But what I will say is that it is also a very toxic place. And I just encourage everyone, as you watch the news and as you talk to your neighbors, to not adopt those styles and to pray for our country as we go through a variety of changes up there. Certainly being close to the belly of the beast will make you re-acknowledge that there is a beast up there. And while I enjoyed speaking with Congressman Holding, and I have redirected him to our staff about some funding ideas that he may have for Wendell, and I greatly appreciate that. I will certainly look forward to meeting with him in the district next time and not traveling to see him in D.C.
Commissioner Boyette.
I also had the great pleasure of attending the Meet on Main event. I thought it was very well put together. It was nice to see so many outside vendors and so many people coming downtown supporting the vendors, the business owners that are already here. I didn't get to stay very long. I had another commitment, or my 3-year-old daughter had another commitment. But I thought it was very well put together, and I look forward to seeing more of them done. As far as the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit on Wendell Boulevard, yeah, I live right over there in that area. And as some of you know, I ride my bike whenever I get a chance, and I crossed that section of Wendell Boulevard today on my bike to go pick my 2 kids up from daycare. I'm a firm believer that the cars are already going 45 miles an hour. there's a section of that road that doesn't have sidewalks and often has people walking in the road because there aren't sidewalks. We've had a push in the past to try to get some sidewalks put in, and there's been some issues there with some property owners not wanting to, put in sidewalks. I don't know that I can fully support increasing the speed limit just because somebody wants to be in a hurry when, there was a resident from the rest home that was hit by a car. There's a hill there. An increase in the speed limit between Selma Road and the dump, I don't think is just important enough to put people at risk, especially when we don't have adequate pedestrian or bicycle. There's no bike lanes. There's, a lot of that doesn't have sidewalks. And so, while I appreciate people like to get where they're going, at the same time, the more you make a town car-centric, the more you dissuade people from walking and biking. And if the cars are going even faster, then people aren't even going to want to do that. So, until there's some upgraded facilities along that stretch, and it has, in the past few years, there have been some stretches that have gotten some more sidewalk. But it's not, especially even into the, getting close to Selma Road, there's no sidewalk. Until that, I don't know that I could support raising the speed limit just because it feels like it's a drag, driving too slow through that area. So that's all I have to say about that.
Commissioner Myrick?
That's a nightmare.
Commissioner Lutz?
I just would also kind of like to echo the comments about Meet on Main on Friday night. I thought the committee who put that together did a great job, and then I know we had some participation by town staff with police and public works and everything, so just thank you to everybody who gave their time and their energy to work on that, because it was a fun event that I've heard nothing but good things about, so hopefully for many more.
Commissioner Carroll?
No comment.
All right, real quickly, I want to remind you of a couple of things that are going on this Saturday, September 28th from 11 to 5 at the Town Square and the Women's Club lot. The St. Eugene's Catholic Church is going to have the International Food and Music Festival. I'm not sure what year this is, they've told me, and it slipped my mind, but this is something they've done for several years, and it's a great event, and I urge you to come and check it out. There's all kinds of food vendors from all over the world, and it's always fun, great thing to do with your family on a Saturday in the fall. The next one is the Harvest Festival, Saturday, October 5th. We've heard about that tonight. It's going to begin with a parade and end with a band. The vendors are going to be on Main Street this year. I hope you'll come down and join all of us. I know that the Chamber of Commerce has been working very hard to plan a great event for Wendell, so please come and participate. It's going to be a good time, it always is. The last thing is the Meet on Main. I wanted to touch on that a little bit. It was absolutely a tremendous success. I want to mention the people who were on that committee. Joe and Sherry Pino, Lisa McKenzie, my husband, Bruce Gray, is on that committee, Gene Brady, and Paul White. I can't tell you how hard these folks have worked to make that event happen. They've been planning for months, attending meetings for months. They've worked very hard, and I really want to thank every single one of them because it really was a great event. It was really nice. I'm very proud of it. There were a lot of event sponsors and volunteers. I'm not going to name them all, but I do want to tell you that Kevin Bedingfield donated the band, which that's pretty cool, and I feel like I can't just skip over the Stone Age Romeos being there. The sponsors and volunteers are an integral part of the continued success of it, so if you're interested in participating, let us know, and we'll add you to our list for next time. It is getting ready to have a wrap-up meeting in the next few days to wrap it up and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I think that's always important to do. And start back in the spring, maybe March, maybe April. It's not firm just yet. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to tell you about that. No, but it will always be on Main Street and always the third Friday night of the month. Probably a few months in the spring, in the fall. Not certain yet about going the whole way through the summer yet. There's some varied opinion about the heat and stuff like that, and whether or not it would continue to be successful during those times. So
as always, I'll let you know how it's going. I think that's it, so we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.